Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name's Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Gerard Goff. We warmly welcome Don and Anne Milford, representing the President of South Australian and Northern Territory branches of the Returned Services League of Australia, and members of the Cronulla and Bondi Junction Waverley RSL sub-branch and accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Bagola Plateau Public School and Belmont Christian College. And from South Australia, Prescott North Primary School, Paravista. Australia's Federation Guard is a tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
toil. Our home is birth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every state advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
I invite you all to please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we pay tribute to Flight Sergeant Aubrey Ashley. Aubrey George Ashley was born on the 6th of September 1917 to Roy and Rosa Ashley of Neutral Bay, Sydney. He enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on 12th of September 1941 and commenced training as a pilot. After initial training in Australia, he embarked for overseas service. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, Ashley was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. After arriving in Britain, Ashley undertook further specialist training before being posted to No. 460 Squadron, a Royal Australian Air Force. No. 460 Squadron would become the most highly decorated Australian squadron in Bomber Command and the squadron that suffered the highest casualties. Flying twin-engine Vickers Wellington medium bombers and then 4-engine Avro Lancaster heavy bombers, the squadron lost over 1,000 men, including Australians, British, Canadians, New Zealanders and South Africans. Almost 600 Australians from 460 Squadron are listed on the Roll of Honour. On the night of the 24th of July 1943, 26 Lancasters from No. 460 Squadron were taking part in a large bombing raid on the German city of Hamburg. As part of the Battle of Hamburg, known as Operation Gomorrah, the raid was part of a bombing offensive by the Royal Air Force and the United States Army Air Force. During the raid, Ashley's Lancaster was shot down. He and all 6 of his fellow crewmates were killed in action. Australian Flight Sergeants Frederick Taylor and Francis Forsyth, British Sergeants John Atchison, James Joyce and Dennis Metcalf, and Canadian Sergeant Antoine Perron. The crew are buried side by side in a collective grave in the British and Commonwealth War Cemetery in Becklingen, Germany. Aubrey Ashley was 25 years old. His name, alongside those of his fellow Australian crewmates, is listed here on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Sergeant Aubrey George Ashley, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Catapult party, present.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Catapult party, now words, 10. Catapult party, clear, march.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.